Okay, out in the garden again. Yeah, so you said that the last video was disappointing, and I guess you know, it's not too difficult for me to do disappointing videos, because you know, unlike you, who, you know, you're pretty good at this sort of thing. YouTube isn't my natural habitat, so I'm kind of not at home, comfortable with this. So I prefer text writing than anything else. But yeah, but the last video, in a way, there was a kind of conscious effort to make it disappointed, in that, or at least try to make it as simple as I could, because I was kind of disappointed with your video, because it was kind of like you were, it seemed, you know, that you were sort of pretending that you didn't understand what I was talking about. And anyway, in your last video, I know what I took away from it was that you do understand what I'm talking about. Because it was just troublesome to me, because I thought, you know, this doesn't compute, because you're a very, 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 very bright guy, and I just can't imagine. It doesn't fit in with my model of you that you don't understand this problem that I'm talking about. So in the video that I did, I really only made I stated two facts, explored the implications of those two facts, and made one, drew one conclusion from it. So, and yeah, I suppose in retrospect it was unfortunate that I mentioned the name Malthus, or I didn't mention it in the video itself, but I put it in the title, because that was just, I should have seen that coming, that the fact the guy was a god botherer and got his sums wrong, was going to be an easy thing to pick up on. But really, you know, yes, he got his sums wrong, and it just goes to show, really, you know, what I've said before about avoiding, whenever you're talking about biology, to avoid human beings, remove them from the equation, because it just gets in the way, and you want to just keep things as simple as you can. And so yeah, he didn't foresee the degree to which technology and oil and fertilizers and all the rest of it would impact on his predictions, you know. But it's kind of like peak oil. It's just, you know, peak oil is just a trivial observation. Everything's going to peak at some point. Anything, it's when it happens is the thing that everybody wants to know. Anyway, so what do we have? We had animals and plants produce many more offspring than they need to replace themselves. That implies that they have the potential for their populations to increase exponentially. 2468 1632 64 128 etc. And they do this, we can, in so long as there are resources, and but past a certain point that exponential growth doesn't continue, and things tend to inhibit one another, and you don't have, this growth cannot continue. There really is no such thing as sustainable fixed percentage growth. And so I guess, what is the conclusion? Yeah, so the conclusion is that the conclusion that I made was that that the reason for this curtailment of ambition is that they're competing for resources, and so the thing that's ultimately sure the reproduction is important, but all the life that we know of has that potential, so they all have that in common. They may have intrinsic growth rates that vary from one thing to another, so the hawthorn trees only got a few hundred berries, and this thing over here's got tens of thousands of them, so they will have different intrinsic growth rates, but they all have intrinsically exponential growth rates. So so there's something else that's limiting population, and obviously that is the resources of the world are finite. And so things tend to be, pretty much on the birdies and things. And this poor little bird over here is probably, a couple of days away from starvation, has to constantly find food, eat, whatever, and unfortunately that's the situation that we have. So in answer to your question, no, there's no religious intent here, no kind of hippie, everything's all in balance and blah, or it's all part of some kind of cosmic plan or anything like that. Bloody hell, it's cold. So yeah, so you've got these things, they're wanting to increase, expand, take up new territory, and they're not, because these ambitions are being thwarted most of the time. So the effect of, so I could cut these trees down and whatever, and yeah, you could say, well, you know, that's a win, you know. Throw a stick of dynamite into a coral reef or something or whatever. But there's plenty of stuff around hungry for that space and for that territory. So I don't know if you can see here, I've got this hammock hanging from this tree which died about 10 years ago, and I just left it here because if there's one thing I like better than trees, then it's dead trees, because they're very interesting and you get lots of little creatures growing in them and whatever. But almost immediately after the death of this tree, there's another tree that's all sort of rooted. Some squirrel planted it there or something, and it's gone, thank you very much, and you know, there it is, on its way to fill that gap, and wasn't planted or anything. So the plant, you know, I was talking about the tree I planted or whatever. Maybe that was a mistake, I don't know. But if I hadn't have planted that tree, there would have been other trees there. I tend to be a bit lackadaisical with the gardening. You don't need to plant trees in this part of the world, they just plant themselves. We're not short of trees through lack of them planting themselves. It's a waste of time planting trees. So what was the original point? Okay, the point I made in the original, well, the comment that you made a video to was that you've got this asymmetry thing, and so we agree on that, right? So there's this sort of that it is better never to have been. It's not, life isn't doing anything ultimately purposeful or anything like that, right? And so all you've got is this ouchy thing that's been going on for the last 500 million years, and you know, I use trees as an example, right? But because, you know, we're a bit short of wildebeest around here, but you know, there's I'm a keen observer of nature, and it's just carnage. You know, you're just in this garden, it's just, things are quietening down now, right? But winter coming, but it's just, you know, it's people generally have a false impression, I suppose, of just how bad it is, in terms of the lives that the vast majority of things exist today, that have existed over in the enormous sort of depths of time. So I remember you saying, let's perhaps try a different tack. You were talking about vegetarianism, and And maybe this is to sort of, I don't know, get you to acknowledge the point I'm making, or see it. You were talking about vegetarianism and talking about the, you know, the value of it in terms of this Benetari symmetry type thing and everything else. And you made an interesting point, which was that yeah, you know, be vegetarian, but you know, kind of don't kid yourself that you're solving the bigger picture here. You know, that you know that the work is done, and that you're now, you know, that your hands are now clean, and that really, that you know, not that you shouldn't be a vegetarian, but that really, it's, I think the word you said, it was just, you know, it's a gesture in the right direction. And I suppose the analogy I wanted to make really was that really, like, AN is is to ethylism as kind of vegetarianism is to, you know, this bigger picture, and that an ethylist criticism of AN is not just simply that it's bigoted and, you know, speciesist, but that it doesn't. It's just a gesture in the right direction. It doesn't. It doesn't make a huge dent in the big picture. It makes a difference to one's own offspring, or non-offspring, but you know, once you've accepted that your kids are just as good as mine, that bunny's little fluffy, whatever they're called, kittens, are they kittens? I don't know, are broadly equivalent to, you know, they're the same kind of thing. What was I saying? Yeah, you can't kid yourself that you know, the only difference is that, you know, that the other people's kids and bunnies and whatever, you know, are not going to be knocking on your door asking for pocket money. And so, you know, that what I was going to say, yeah, it's not just that it's bigoted and speciesist. I'm not saying it is bigoted and speciesist, but you know, that you could make that argument. AN is, but that it's not, as you have, you've made the point lots and lots of times. You know, it doesn't solve the problem, which is that, you know, it's life itself is the problem, not not humanity or all that sort of stuff, you know, that, yeah, because you get quite, I get the feeling a lot of some alien people anyway are kind of tend to, you know, they are on the kind of Gaia-y, hippie kind of end of the spectrum, and sort of just sort of think that, you know, we just need to get rid of these humans and everything will be okay. Bloody hell, it's really cold. Yeah, so yes, I concede that, yeah, we can blow up coral reefs or poison the oceans or whatever we can do. Or on a smaller scale, yeah, yes, I could concrete over the grass here and things like that. But you know, I mean, the net value of doing something like that is really there will be net value in doing something like that, I suppose. But considering the kind of time scales and things that we might consider important in the bigger picture, then, you know, a stick of dynamite in a coral reef might make a difference for a couple of years. But, you know, over the thousands of years that coral reef might live and die, it's kind of small potatoes. The ocean, if we were to stop fishing in the ocean in really stupid ways, then I'm pretty sure that probably within decades the species diversity might not come back, but the numbers of sentient things certainly would. The Great Plains, we've really just replaced grass with another species of grass, and it's just grass that's going down human gullets and human and domestic livestock gullets, rather than the gullets of bison, that sort of thing. I mean, and incidentally, the bison and stuff, you know, they're a very tiny proportion of the biomass. A very tiny proportion of the suffering, right, considering these are big animals and you get many more mices to the pound or whatever. Yeah, so I suppose you know, I'm not saying this is. I'm not making an argument to have children. That's not my intention. I don't have children myself, and I don't think that's likely to happen. But I can't bring myself to think that I've done anything that's been any kind of achievement, and I suppose I think it's rather sad when, as a chap, I can't, there's a deterministic one, and he's sort of kind of beating himself up about, you know, he's had children and then he's come to this AM thing quite late, and You know, if it wasn't here, yeah, you know, yeah, you said in another video you were saying, you know, the Japanese population, they're declining, and you know, so it's not like anybody, you know, that somebody in Japan rings up people in Bangladesh and says, well, you know, we're declining here, so that you can afford to pump out a few more. Yeah, of course, yes, of course, it's not like that, but you know, it's perhaps marginally fewer fish being fished out of the sea than there would have been, and I imagine the whales are sleeping fractionally, if they sleep at all. I don't know if they do. Fractionally less worried about being scientifically sampled. Yeah, so anyway, it's getting dark and it's cold, so I'm gonna stop now. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say, I suppose.